This is the way. Welcome back to Bring Your Own Lightsaber. We are ready to break down Season 3, Episode 4, The Foundling. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan, joined by Cam as always, and back today is Greg. Boys, how we doing?
Doing good. Good. Greg, welcome back.
Thank you, guys. We're good. We had a really short episode this week.
Yeah, like half the length.
27 minutes and change was the run length, but it really was like 23 minutes of actual content.
Yeah. But it was packed. It was packed with some pretty good stuff.
Yeah, it felt like filler, but it was pleasant filler.
Yes.
And there was a particular moment that made us all weep with joy.
Yes.
That moment made it all worth it, I think.
Yeah.
I'd say so.
All right, so why don't we just start with our kind of breakdown. We'll go kind of scene by scene through the episode, and we're back with the cohort, and it's time to train.
Covert.
Sorry, I'm gonna keep.
We're gonna have a new word for it every
At
episode.
least you didn't call it coven.
A lot of witches up in here. Yeah, it's time to train with our Mandalorians. Everyone's maybe you're training your blasters, maybe you're doing jetpack training, or maybe you're Grogu just hanging out playing with some crab things.
Yeah, we open up with their secret hideaway that's apparently we'll talk about in a minute, but only secretive from humans. Apparently, it's a hotspot for all the monsters of the planet.
Yeah, it seems to be really a poor location to have settled down, I guess. But
Basically a grocery store if you're a monster.
yeah. I wanted to say, I thought all of the unique Mandalorian suits that they had out there,
It is cool to see how
I
they're all different.
wonder if those might be cosplayers. Because when they did Season 1, Episode 8, and IG-11 is going through the streets shooting the stormtroopers on the back of the speeder bike, and they're like pinned down in that little katina. All of those stormtroopers, I think the showrunners had 8 functional stormtrooper suits that they did the weathering on, and that's it.
Really?
So the way they got those legions of stormtroopers is they actually had, I think it's the 501st,
501st, yeah.
right? Which is that charity group in California that they all have their own stormtrooper armor suits that they made. They got those guys in to be stand-ins for an army. And so I wonder if they did the same thing here, because for what it's worth, it looked like none of those people really knew what they were doing.
Yeah. Well, it was funny to see at the beginning. We opened to everyone is like shooting a blaster or something, lobbing grenades and whatnot, and then we zoom out and they're having target practice on no targets. It's just the open water, and they're just kind of
they're practicing their gunslinger quick draw. It's just like the bang bang.
I think we've established this is not the Mandalorian Marines. These are whatever's left over from the purge. And they need the practice.
Yeah, they do. Well, it's also more than likely that most of those trainees are foundlings that are just a result of the cataclysm of war between the Empire and the Rebellion over the last, 9 years since Return of the Jedi. Return of the Jedi is 5 years after The Empire Strikes Back. The Empire Strikes Back is like a year and a half after A New Hope, or maybe it's only something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, round about 15 years from really the beginnings of the Open Rebellion. Because I mean, the rebellion existed during the times of Andor, right? But it was kind of formed at that stage.
Yeah.
But really, Open Rebellion was the beginning of the fight against the Death Star.
And Din was picked up during the Clone Wars era. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So again, some of those folks might not even be original Mandalorians as well. The older folks who are doing the training. So hopefully they at least have some sort of senior group that's guiding the training. Otherwise, shooting over the open water, I don't know if that's your best plan.
Yeah. Well, it's a good thing the armor apparently seems to know everything. So.
Those that do not know do not speak.
Right. She actually doesn't say that much sometimes.
That's true.
So we're training. Again, is it the best training? We're not sure. Everyone in the group is kind of doing whatever they need to do to get ready for maybe some sort of impending battle, or maybe this is just kind of their day to day.
It's just their, elementary school to them.
Yeah, and I mean, Grogu's just having his grand old time playing with what he thinks are rocks and are really giant hermit crabs.
I was going to say, did you guys pick up on that there was 2 people trained? They had the staffs, the big staffs that they were using. Staffs so maybe we'll see those make a comeback.
Well, I mean, but they said that I bet you those aren't Beskar.
You don't think so?
No, because in Book of Boba Fett, when the Mandalorian or the armorer takes his spear, she reforges it for foundlings, and she says Mandalorian steel is not supposed to be used to make weapons.
As weapons, right?
Because it can pierce Mandalorian armor. So I bet you those are just some other type of battle staff.
Good point. Maybe they'll call it a vibro spear.
They could, and it's just not made of anything.
Like they're knives, but yeah.
But yeah, exactly. I thought the first time we see the real vibro knife in action, it was the episode with the Mudhorn when he stabs it in the head.
That was so cool.
And you see it vibrating in his hand. You're like,
so cool.
Oh, look at that!
It did the thing.
It did the thing. They said it.
But yeah, Baby Yoda off doing his Force stuff that turns out to not quite be Force stuff, but rather just hermit crabs
or hunger stuff.
He
does like to eat small things.
He does see one pop out, and he gives it that look, that famous Grogu look.
Yeah.
But then we see Din come over, and he's like, "All right, time for you to go train with the other foundlings," I think is what he said.
Close enough, yeah.
Which is hilarious because then he proceeds to pick him up like a little tiny baby.
I was thinking we were going to get a little Force push action, and I thought he was going to just ragdoll one of the other foundlings.
That would have been hilarious.
But they went a different way. It was just as hokey as it could have been with the Force front flip and the Force back flip, and then pop, pop, pop.
I mean, I guess if you're a former Jedi, you're probably used to not showing off your Force skills in this era. Like,
so true.
Yeah, but so that the Purge is 19 years before the Battle of Yavin, and which we just established was 15 years before this. So that's 35 years ago. And if Grogu is supposed to be 50, that would put him at 15 years old at the time of the Purge. So, yeah, 15 years is a long time to learn stuff. But if your natural lifespan and age and development is delayed by a factor of 10, so he's, 50 is really 5 years old. 15 is 1.5.
Yeah.
Is he really... I guess he is forming memories, as we find out later with that glorious flashback.
Yeah.
I mean, that could have just been trauma, honestly. I don't know if that was a happy memory for him. But yeah, Grogu, at first he kind of gets matched up with who we later found out is a member of the Vizsla clan. I believe the name was Ragnar Vizsla.
That did sound right. Of course they would name their son Ragnar.
And he was
such a Vizsla move.
He was the dude who got his helmet a couple episodes ago.
Yep.
So as soon as you get your helmet, you're ready to train, apparently.
Or if you're Grogu, you're ready to train before you even get a helmet. So.
Yeah, they established Grogu doesn't have a helmet, and he can't really speak the creed, but Dad wants him to start his training.
He's just proud of you.
So yeah, we get this very hokey little combat scene where all I'm thinking is, first of all, the little dart blaster thing is bigger than Yoda's arm, or Grogu's arm, excuse me.
That was pretty. It was pretty cute.
It was quite adorable.
It's like taking your toddler to his first paintball game.
But after he does the whole flips and he wins the whole thing and he shoots the kid 3 times in a row, I'm just sitting there thinking, why they were calling it after each point the other kid got. Why didn't the other kid just go bang, bang, bang?
Yeah, like, he's just taking a sweet time, having fun. And then Grogu's like, all right,
actually.
Maybe the other kid felt bad. I don't know. That seems so un-Mandalorian. You're right. He should have just immediately taken him out.
Yeah.
But the whole insolent teenager thing with those two don't. Din says it. The armor says it. His dad says it. Those that don't know don't speak, or whatever it is.
Right.
And the kid is very clearly like, well, I know. He's just being a dickhead. And I'll chalk that one up to overzealous cockiness.
Basically trash talking.
I did think one thing sort of important that Din said to Grogu after the second time Grogu got hit right before it was almost over is he like basically leaned down and was like, I know what you can do. Like, you got to like show them. And it kind of goes back to the point of like, oh, like normally I feel like the Jedi almost hide their abilities and they don't want to show them off. But Din's just like, no, like show them what you can do. Like, this is insane. Someone else has to know.
His ass, Bobby.
Yeah. And then Grogu's like, oh, okay, I'll just do 3 backflips over him and then blast him in the chest 3 times. And everyone's like, what just happened? So very hokey scene, cool scene though. And good to see that Grogu's kind of developing some sense of his powers.
I think we just as a fan base have to get over the fact that this radical world of faraway space craziness is gonna have its hokiness, and that's just
there's no escaping
the way it's gonna go. I mean, this was better than the slow ass Vespas from Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Space Vespas.
The spin. You love the spin.
And better than Leia's escape from the poachers in Obi-Wan. So I'll take it.
That was slow motion. That escape.
I would, if I never had to watch that scene again, it would be too soon.
I just want to say that was impressive the way he took him out just so easily. Yeah. Almost going to show he's kind of a force to be reckoned with, no pun intended, in a battle. Like, we saw him take out one of the Alamites so easily in the previous episode. I guess a teenager is nothing for him either.
Who remembers that episode of SpongeBob where SpongeBob has to prove that he's so tough? So Patrick says, I'll let you beat me up for the other guy. And then SpongeBob stands perfectly still and Patrick starts flying through the air and gets like ragdolled back and forth. That's just what I'm picturing.
It's pretty
to this kid. Would have been happy to see that. Well, it would have been great if Paz Vizsla stepped up and said, like, "Oh, I'll fight you instead," and then
he got
Well, he gets thrown around plenty this episode.
I honestly could see him doing that. This man is very prideful. So we get the win. Grogu's dad's happy. He did have Bo in his corner as well. She's happy.
She's the one that strapped him up.
Yeah.
She seems to be playing for the home team.
She's fitting in. She hasn't taken her helmet off. She's attempting it. She's trying to make it work, and so far she's trying to buy back into it. But as soon as we get past this little training scene, then the worst located camp of all time, like, for any Cobra.
If that is such a massive threat that could swoop upon you in mere seconds,
and it's happened multiple times. They say
multiple times they've lost children to this giant flying monster.
But it's not even just the giant flying monster. It's from the first chapter,
the giant reptile, which we also get to see later.
They're endangered by sea, air, and maybe some sort of earth creature.
Who knows? Those crabs there could be giant crabs at the bottom of that lake that'll crawl out and start eating people next episode.
Yeah, this is not the safest little cave system.
I know they're Mandalorians. They can handle themselves, but man, I haven't seen a whole lot of handling it.
I mean, do they like the challenge of that? Do they like the danger? Maybe that's part of it. Why they chose?
I bet they get off on it a little bit.
Yeah. But maybe in like some sort of warning system could be installed. Wouldn't be a terrible idea.
Yeah. Just one like astromech sitting up on the hill with like a beeper.
It's really not that hard. Yes, things go from happy to sad real quick. Little Vizsla gets kind of
swooped on out of the air,
and here begins a chase.
Yeah, they just take right off in the jetpacks, and it is kind of funny because as I was thinking this, I was like, wouldn't it make sense to go get like the N1 or something like that, and just go get the starfighter that can go faster and maybe shoot it down real quick like that? But we see Din tries to like take out his blaster right away, and it's Paz Vizsla just goes over and he's like, no, like we might hurt the foundling, and it's like, well, you guys are the men. You're supposed to be the best aim, the best like, just boom, headshot. That would have been great.
It is surprising to see them take so much precaution over. Like, they seem like the type of society that shoots first and asks questions later.
Right.
But that is not the scenario in this case.
At least it seems that they never are with the foundlings, when the foundlings involved.
What I will say is, after the Night of 1,000 Tears, they might, think twice before they do anything stupid because their numbers are so few and their creed is so damaged. But whatever. Okay.
Yeah. Jetpack race ensues.
And they run out of fuel.
Who we've never seen. This reminded me of the scene in episode 8, the start of episode 8, where just magically out of nowhere, the ships run on fuel.
Fuel shortages
and they're out of
thing in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like they're just randomly introducing
we only have
this.
Enough fuel for one more jump. Well, and you know what? Because ship fuel had never really been a factor in any of these movies up until episode 8. Because the next one,
the jetpacks are a little more believable because they're like local units.
Yeah.
What was it?
Not giant starships.
Not Rogue One. Solo. The whole show was about refined hyperfuel, right? The whole movie.
Yeah.
But Solo came out 6 months after The Last Jedi.
Right. So they were probably like, we need to figure out a way.
And I've already defended Solo on this show, so I won't do that today.
I don't think we need to be thinking about fuel consumption in our Star Wars enjoyment.
Right.
Yeah. Having said that, I like it when a universe has like kind of more realistic rules and stuff, and they ran out of gas.
It is more believable.
It's kind of funny to think that,
it's relatable.
Tony Stark and his arc reactor can fly halfway, around the world 12 times on just one charge. But this was still good.
So we run out of fuel.
Apparently, gotta walk back.
That happens. Well, we see.
And before that, Bo-Katan's ship. She was the only smart one apparently who thought to go get the ship and chase after it that way. So when everyone else has to carry themselves back via Heel-Toe Express, Bo-Katan is flying after it, getting the job done. She tracks its location. She doesn't get too close. She says she doesn't disturb it or
continues to remind us that she is far superior to everyone else.
The theme of this season so far, I would say.
Bo-Katan is the best Mandalorian. Or at least the smartest.
Well, and that's something
probably best stuff.
I was thinking throughout this episode is originally when we were introduced to her, she was a member of Death Watch. This current group is called Children of the Watch. This is somewhat kind of what she envisioned. Not this extreme. She didn't think she had to have her helmet on at all times back then, but this is kind of her vision of what Mandalorian society would be at least back in the Clone Wars. So that was just something in the back of my head throughout the episode is she liking this? Does she like it here?
And I think we get some hints that maybe so far she is. So they go back, they scout out the little, she scans the nest where this giant dragon thing is, and they kind of figure, okay, we can do it this way. She's like, oh, this is just like what I trained on when I was a foundling. She has this kind of natural experience. So she's like, oh, I'll lead a party out there. We'll go climb the cliffs and we'll get the foundling back nice and stealthy and call it a day.
Bing, bang, boom, we'll be back for dinner.
Right. And they fly off. They set the plan. We see Grogu has to stay behind, and the armor basically says, you're not old enough, you're not ready for this yet. And the big group with Din, Bo, Paz, and a couple others set off on Bo's ship, and they park, who knows how far away, because they say they don't want to get too close and scare it off, because if I will say, they do have a awful lot of knowledge about these giant dragons. Like, if they get too close, it'll get angry and it'll kill the foundling.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm just thinking, how many have they taken?
This
how
was
many is it a lot?
Not the first time.
Yeah. So with their astounding knowledge of these dragons, they park and then walk the rest of the way.
What kind of father lets their child play where like 8 other children have been abducted by a giant carnivore? I'll tell you what, Father, Paz Vizsla.
Yeah, that's about right for the Vizsla clan.
This is the way.
Extensive knowledge of the dragon, not extensive knowledge of air detection systems.
So they decide to camp out, and again, they get under a cliff to get out of line of sight, and then proceed to light a fire. in the middle of the night, directly below the nest. So again, this group of Mandalorians, apparently not the brightest bunch.
We want to be out of line of sight, but we'll light a fire, no problem.
But again, it's not about these little teeny tiny details, obviously.
Let
them
go or you won't enjoy it.
Right. Like Greg said, this was more of just kind of a filler-ish episode where we get just a couple details that I think are going to come around later on, which we'll talk about. But one of those details being that Bo-Katan, for the first time, is kind of sitting there while they pass out the food, and she kind of leans over to him and she's like, "So how are we supposed to eat this?" And to me, that just kind of shows like, oh, so she's actually trying. Like, if she didn't care about the covert and anything, and she could have just gone back to how she was, she could have just taken her helmet off, eaten right there, and called it a day.
She's buying into the culture. She's giving it the chance since they accepted her so graciously, and she hasn't been able to find a party or a pack of Mandalorians that will follow her lead, or at least, accept her well enough to work with her. I think she might actually like this whole thing. But I think we skipped our favorite part, the flashback sequence.
I think that happened right at the end of the night.
They finished their meal. Yeah.
They finished their meal, and then we go back to the cave and see Grogu with the armor.
And he's getting kind of a session on
he's got a little
Mandalorian history.
Yeah, a little history lesson.
And also slight trauma from the way she's kind of putting some armor together. Each bang is kind of, for some reason, reminding Grogu of the Jedi Temple invasion, Order 66 era.
Attack of the 501st, led by our fan favorite, Anakin Skywalker.
Who we do not see, but we do clearly see 501st members breaking into the temple.
I would have been thrilled to see Anakin.
That would have been insane.
Just like a little tiny cameo.
I think it makes more sense that, like, Anakin Skywalker, whoever he was in the Jedi Order, maybe didn't know about Grogu, so...
Not specifically, yeah, probably not.
And then if you have him see Grogu and see them smuggling him away, then Vader's looking for him, right?
Right.
And so I think they opted for not a big deal. You don't need to know approach.
I mean, not even that. If Anakin was there, I don't think Grogu's getting away. If he sees that, yeah.
Although he is pretty good at Mario Kart in his little tube there, so who knows?
It would have been cool to see him fend for himself in those streets of Coruscant.
I always have some beef when Jedi are taken out so easily by blaster.
I was thinking that when we saw that first scene where the clones bust in, and they just immediately gun down 4 Jedi surrounding Grogu. I was just sitting there
I know the clones are supposed to be the superior battle officer or whatever, because they're better than droids, because they can think and do whatever. But there's all kinds of lore in the books about how fighting against living beings, you can kind of think about their predetermined actions, whereas droids, they're programmed and they're simple, but they're the opposite. You don't get any emotion. It's just a targeting computer, so you have to react to the environment as opposed to your opponent.
Right.
That might be more of a Sith versus flesh thing than a Jedi versus clone thing, but
still, if you're a Jedi, come on.
But have you guys seen the Tales of the Jedi animated episodes? Yeah. So when Ahsoka's training against Rex and the other 501st,
very cool scene,
and sets up a lot of precedent for understanding the difference between droids and clones, which the Jedi, I guess, haven't been training to fend off massive amounts of blaster-toting beings.
Yeah, that I think for me, where I'm at is the sheer number of them. Maybe in this particular scene, they didn't do that good of a job, but in that Ahsoka scene, she's facing down an entire ship corridor of those.
Why is she so dang good? Well, she practiced a lot.
Yeah.
So that's nice that they give that background. And, at this stage, we're just thinking all right, where's this ride going to go? And then we get our Lord and Savior.
Jar Jar Binks.
Jar Jar Binks. Except it's not Darth Jar Jar, it's Jedi Jar Jar. It is Ahmed Best portraying some unnamed Jedi, at least not that I've seen a name for yet. I'm sure I'll find one on Reddit later this afternoon when I'm scrolling.
Do we think that's the best moment of the season so far?
You mean the Ahmed Best moment?
True. This is the pun episode of BYOL.
I don't know if I would call it the best, but I really enjoyed that scene.
Yeah, it was
he
up
picks up the second lightsaber. He's rocking the dual wield. He's got the flow down. He's been watching some of these cosplayers that do their lightsaber showcases. He studied the duel, and some of it was a little slower and a little choppy, but it was just great to see it on screen. And
they're really cool visuals.
Anyone deserved redemption from this movie, the only other person is Jake Lloyd from The Phantom Menace. But yeah, I mean, Ewan was always pretty well loved, even though the prequels got poor love, I guess. Hayden Christensen had a lot of tough time, but he got his return as Darth Vader in the most recent series, and fans love him and recognize him first. But Ahmed Best and Jake Lloyd, I mean, Jake Lloyd, he had a drug problem for a while. I don't know if he still does. Ahmed Best, I believe, had some self-harm issues.
Yeah, he had some issues with that.
There was a lot of tough stuff for him.
You kind of see him on screen, and you're just so happy for him, honestly.
Yes.
And it makes you happy, too.
And you know what? I hated Rose Tico from the sequel trilogy, but I would love to give Kelly Marie Tran another chance to play a decent character.
Right. It wasn't her fault.
It wasn't her. It was the character and the writing.
It was not her fault at all.
Same thing with Moses Ingram from the Kenobi show. I did not like her character. Reva was a little too overplayed for me, but I think that's a lot of the directing choices by the producers. And okay, I would totally give that character or that actor another chance. That's just me.
How else can we sort of praise this scene?
It was just the visual, the burning temple at night was really cool. The chase scene was really cool with the gunships, clone gunships chasing them.
I know the new Disney features are a lot about we don't hack limbs off left and right. You can have a sword stab through somebody, but it ain't going to cut them in half, and you're not going to see it.
That's why having the drones were so good.
Once in Kenobi, when that stormtrooper fell over the laser gate,
and
he split right in half, and that made me giggle.
Oh yeah.
But then there's other scenes where Kenobi's lightsaber is just bouncing off of clone trooper armor, and it's implied that he's slicing them, but it's very clearly poorly directed.
Yeah,
and that hurts to watch. I would love to see some of the Jedi actually, violently defend themselves against the clones in that attack.
Yeah.
So that would have been cool. Give them Ahmed Best some meteor action. But yeah, the chase sequence was good. The playing chicken with the train thing was fine. It kind of felt like that scene from The Dark Knight where Batman's driving his motorcycle through a mall.
And it ended up being a callback to the previous episode. We saw some of the things that we saw in Dr. Pershing's first date.
Dr. Empire.
Yeah, the mountain.
The mountain. Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
It's nice. They are bringing back old things and building on new things.
Right.
Where
the chase ended up was very interesting.
Yeah, and it was one of their landing pads.
Yes.
Where this Jedi's meeting.
It had to be Nabooian officers because that's a Naboo cruiser, right?
Yeah.
So
they
had
the Naboo armor and
whether
stuff as well.
It was Padme's old ship or it wasn't. It's the same ship that Padme and Anakin fly around in Episode 2, which may or may not have been left on Geonosis when they got captured, because that's the last we see of it. So whether it was repoed or whether this is just a totally new ship off the assembly line, people at first thought is okay, he's going to Naboo.
Right.
Okay, what's that going to mean? Darth Jar Jar?
Right. True.
He plays two characters
Could you
at
imagine
once.
seeing Ahmed Best and Darth Jar Jar on screen? Well, just Jar Jar Binks on screen.
It was essentially very clear that this Jedi knew exactly. He had a destination.
Right, because they get off, they take off in the ship, and they jump to light speed. So I think this was a cool twist that I wasn't necessarily expecting. I'm not sure about you guys, but now we're going to get more of the background of Grogu and how he ended up where he was in with the Empire, or being hunted down by the Empire, and kind of what his process was after Order 66 and how he kind of got to where he is today.
Yes, super excited to continue talking about that right after a quick break. All right, welcome back from break. We got our lightsabers ready, and we just saw some lightsabers on the show.
That was not from the show.
That was not from
live
the show.
performed by a stunt actor in our very presence.
Named Greg. Yes, we spent the break pretty much just watching Greg's past lightsaber battles.
Being a lightsaber enthusiast, I like to play with the lightsabers in the least of sexual way possible. So yeah, various parties, gatherings, friend events, even like late at night after going to the bars. That's why I have more than one, so we can get drunk and goof around with them. And it's we do it frequently enough that we have plenty of video, for better or certainly for worse.
And we just saw some lightsabers on the show, and we really liked it a lot, quite a bit.
I was thinking, did you guys like just in terms of like lightsaber action, did you like this scene of the Order 66 flashback or Bo-Katan being badass with the Darksaber on Mandalore? For so far this season.
That's a really good
question.
question.
What do you mean purely in terms of lightsaber action?
Yeah.
Because Bo-Katan looks pretty baller. She knows what she's doing, right? It's better than watching Din just lump around.
And it was more dedicated to the action itself of the lightsaber.
I like this scene.
I'm a sucker for the grainy camera when we do the Jedi Purge flashbacks.
Yeah.
I would love to see, honestly, like I'm glad we got what we just got. I would have liked to have seen it on a different planet. You know, I know it doesn't make sense for Grogu to have been anywhere but the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, but like it would have been cool if it were a Jedi Temple on another planet, and that's where we get our boy, Mr. Best.
That'd be cool.
I can't wait to see what his Jedi name is, because most people that do like a Jedi name do an anagram of their name.
Yeah.
Like I don't know.
As far as we can tell, will be a continuing character.
Yeah, he made it out.
We might not see him.
So that was kind of the last we talked about, is how they made it out of this kind of pickle they were in, going up against the 501st. Or no, not the 501st.
Yeah. I mean,
it was.
The entire. I mean, pretty much the entire clone
Were
army.
they blue or were they the red Coruscant guards?
No, that was
okay.
First.
Okay.
Oh,
red was.
Or maybe it was a mix.
Did the Coruscant guards show up on the dropship?
That's what. Yeah, I think that might have been what it is.
Right. Eventually, they got the entire clone army pretty much aware that there's a Jedi on the run.
Right.
Yeah.
Reinforcements show up, but they get away.
Right. And the last we see is they jump to light speed, and that's kind of where the flashback ends. So I'm excited to see where they kind of take this, what Grogu's background is, and
I just want to.
We're looking up the scene right now.
I just want to say,
I went past it.
Even though he ended up with some Naboo.
Oh, it was the Royal Guard, the clone troopers. I think they're called shock troopers.
Yeah,
they have the red stuff that Palpatine. They go with Palpatine for the most part.
Right.
So those are the guards that show up to shoot down the Naboo fighter. But it gets out and gets to hyperspace, and Ahmed Best is there piloting the ship. And I know it's a Naboo cruiser, so do we think it goes to Naboo? Like, if he had contacts that were Nabooian, I guess that would make the most sense.
So,
and for the record, this did happen before the campfire scene.
This is a double-edged sword here. You can go to Naboo, which happens to be the home planet of Sheev Palpatine. You can go to Naboo, and maybe no one's expecting a Jedi to go to the Emperor's home planet.
Right.
Or you just go to Naboo because you clearly are in a Naboo ship. And
they're the ones that help.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see where they take Grogu's backstory. And it's just another little plot twist that we weren't really necessarily expecting. But now I'm kind of excited to see where it goes. And it's just another way, like, is there just going to be a Grogu show now? Like,
right.
I love how they just add these little wrinkles where it's like, okay, like I could watch a whole season on just this.
Right. Suddenly there's a new thread to this show. Last episode we got, here's another thread about Dr. Pershing. Today, this new thread added in is Grogu's backstory. And
so, okay. Kind of not relevant, but also maybe possibly relevant. Does anybody know what the timeline is supposed to be for the new show, The Acolyte?
I believe it's a pre-episode 1. I could be
wrong.
Okay,
so it's supposed to be pre-episode 1. Well, so because I've heard I had heard originally it was post Jedi Purge. So I thought it might have something to do with the Inquisitors, right? The rise of the Inquisitors. I was talking with a friend the other night, and we talked about how maybe it would be focused on Asajj Ventress. So there was an Asajj Ventress book that they did that was really good. It's a whole love story with her and Quinlan Vos. Obi-Wan and Anakin are in it. Dooku's in it. I think Palpatine's even in it. Like, if we got that live action, that would be incredible. They'd have to CGI Dooku, obviously, or get a stand-in. But, like, Grievous has a major fight scene in it. Like, there was a lot of good stuff in that book.
She dies in that, right?
She does. Yeah, she does. Which would be, that would be, like, one way to end it. It would be pretty crazy. So that was one thing I thought. If they did that show, right, or if the Acolyte, even if it's not about Asajj Ventress, if it takes place post Purge, they could be leading into that show with these flashbacks.
True.
That would be nice because then it doesn't take away from the Mandalorian. We know that we'll get Grogu's story somewhere
other than Kenobi and Andor, the Book of Boba Fett, and now Ahsoka.
Right.
And what's the other show that they're going to do? Or maybe that was it.
That's it.
I mean, the other shows, Book of Boba Fett and Ahsoka, are both kind of spin-offs of Mandalorian.
Clearly, this era, yeah.
Boba Fett is really his own character, as is Ahsoka Tano, but like they got their debut on this show, and then they're getting their own shows if fan reaction is good, which obviously it is.
I'm still hoping for some Old Republic stuff coming in the future, but obviously this wouldn't be anything related to that. But
I want the Darth Bane trilogy more than I want World Peace.
Also, what I kind of heard is, I know I said pre-episode 1, but I don't think immediate pre-episode 1. Okay. I think going back quite a ways.
Okay.
Well, and I don't think we'll see Darth Bane, but possibly, I believe her name is Zatanna. His apprentice.
Xana. Darth Xana. Yeah. Oh,
I heard she could be the acolyte.
Okay. Well, but hold on. If an acolyte is usually somebody who's studying a teaching or something else, like they're not the lead show.
So maybe they're trying to.
The acolyte could be about Darth Xana, but it's like the Darth Bane story.
Yeah,
I could get behind that.
I could very much.
Get behind that. Right? Like I know, in this new age and era, like we're trying to make sure there's more all-inclusive content for people of all races and genders and backgrounds to like have something to feel like it's more about them, right? Like the prequels and the original trilogy very much just followed your average white man. And I totally understand people wanting to do like having Rey be the main character of the sequel trilogy. So little girls can have a chance to idolize their hero instead of it all being about little white boys. I get that. So if they want to take this great piece of literature, the Darth Bane trilogy, make it about Darth Xana, they could do that. I mean,
if you do it about Xana, then you're missing all the awesome Bane stuff.
Well, so he finds her at the end of the first book. She was a kid. And I did these years ago, but she was a kid with her brother that got kind of caught up in the end of that war, the Jedi and Sith war. Because, the first book is about Bane taking power. The second book is about them.
I would not want to miss him taking out the Sith.
No, I really wouldn't either.
Don't dangle that.
I understand. I understand if they want to focus this show on a female character for that reason. I mean, they also I don't know, whatever.
The other thing I heard is the main character will exist outside of the Rule of Two. So if Xana is the member of the Rule of Two, what is this other person trying to do?
So where did you hear that? Because that's interesting.
I'm always reading random things.
All right. I don't like that there could be a breach of the Rule of Two post Darth Bane.
I mean, there always is.
Someone
craving the power.
Yeah, well, the person craving the power ultimately has to take an apprentice when they destroy their master, but they're not supposed to do it till after. And in the Darth Bane book, when Darth Xana finally defeats her master, she has an apprentice ready to go, but she's like, you got to let me face him by myself, otherwise this doesn't count, more or less. And then she does win. But that would be pretty cool to see Sith sorcery or Sith alchemy that she practices.
Right. Could this involve the Night Sisters?
I mean, there's so many. This universe is infinite with the stuff that they could do and the stuff that we would enjoy. Shit or get off the pot already.
Just give me Mace Windu back.
That's all we really want.
All right. Tangent. Where were
Okay.
we?
We watch Amat Best sail off with Grogu into the hyperspace,
And then
we're
back
left
to the
wondering.
armorer.
So we already talked about how they camped out under the nest.
Before that, with the armorer,
Oh,
Grogu
she
gets
makes
his
him
new
that
piece
little
of armor
a mudhorn signet
with the mudhorn
Yeah,
signet,
that's so
and they have
nice.
some technology going on
Yeah.
inside it, and
Well,
she basically puts it as an
have-
extra chest plate.
Right
over his
All their
chainmail.
chest plates have some type of integrated
Yes,
electronics.
yes.
So she
Some-
made him something very small and basic, but it was
Yeah.
precious. As
It could be like a tracker. It could be, it could be anything.
I don't
It
know.
could be maybe she'll also set him up with some darts.
Aw.
or
Some little
something.
baby Yoda.
Oh,
darts.
the whispering no.
Oh yeah, the thing that Din got in season one.
Yeah.
He really doesn't need it though.
No, he doesn't.
No.
He's so powerful.
Yeah.
But those things. were
Imagine Baby
really
Yoda
nice. I
with like a
can't
little
remember.
flamethrower on his wrist.
It's like, what the point? And he could just force push someone.
Yeah.
Maybe he gets bored of the Force. He wants some fun new toys.
True. His force batteries run low.
Whistling birds. Is that what they
Yes.
call it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Those were pretty sick.
Yeah, that was pretty nice. All right, so they go to this mountain. They do a nice little rock climbing sequence, and it actually looked really well shot. I was kind of impressed with the way they transitioned, like rope to rope.
Especially with Paz Vizsla hauling up his massive minigun blaster.
He's all John Favreau's a big man, and I know it just was fun to watch.
I think he did that on purpose. I think he comically made that gun so large.
He got tossed around shortly thereafter.
True.
And it was just like
It was funny how the whole point was they're supposed to be stealth, and it's just this huge, clumsy dude just clambering up this mountain, grunting around.
But then we find out why, right?
Right.
And they get to the top, and they're like, "Let's scope this out." We see some heat signatures. We're not sure, and he just goes, charging straight in.
Because he reveals
my
that
son
is his son.
Are we now fans of Paz Vizsla?
Yeah,
I think
after this episode?
Yeah,
I
because
think so too.
okay,
Him and
so
his giant gun.
Well, they fly around. The big thing shows up. It vomits the still alive son out for the baby birds to eat. Whatever. I'll take it. And then they go on this grand merry chase. They subdue the monster. They get the son back, right? And then there's that moment where Din hands his son back to Paz, and Paz is like, "Thank you." Din responds with his classic,
"This is the way."
Yeah.
It was a cool little chase scene. In the chase scene, we see Bo-Katan lose one of her shoulder plates.
I thought I saw her lose two of them too, but I was mistaken. She only lost one.
Was it only one?
It was just the one.
Maybe something else might have fallen.
Because when she gets her replacement, she's like, "Is it appropriate for me?" She never had one to begin with.
Yeah, she didn't have one.
True. Only Din has the butt plate. He's the only smart one.
So far. We'll see. I mean, maybe the other Mandalorians haven't earned their butt plate
We figured out that the
extra
extra port on Paz Vizsla's jetpack wasn't for.
It's not
a third thruster.
It's the ammo reserve for his giant gun.
His shoulder cannon.
Oh yeah, you did see that hooked up to the
back.
I guess maybe that could have been what this episode was about in terms of Mandalorian things. Is this the episode of getting to know Paz Vizsla?
Among Bo-Katan kind of trying to fit in, it's get to see Paz Vizsla start to maybe trust Din and Bo a little bit.
And giving us some hints of he could be a character you should get used to moving forward.
Yeah, and I think he always has been.
Well, when we settle into this, like these last, first hold on. The scene where the giant monster gets eaten by the other thing. I think I had something in my mouth. I was trying to say there's always a bigger fish, and Maddie, of course, had to say it before I did, and then gloat for saying it first. But that was great. Great ending to that. And then they bring we've got 3 foundlings for you. So I thought Bo-Katan was saying that ironically, but she responded to who when she said this is the way.
That was
the armor?
It must have been the armor.
Yeah.
Because they were talking at the end.
I think
they
it
got
was
back.
Yeah. She said that genuinely, and then she gave them the giant like bird monsters, which like those will grow up pretty nice.
Those will be
big.
cool to see flying around later on.
They're 100% going to use that in battle somewhere.
Yeah, that'll be years from now, but that'll be sick.
I will say I'm still a little disappointed that during the fight scene against the dragon monster, that Din didn't just fly above it and drop the Darksaber into its forehead nostrils.
Yeah.
Dude, so I thought, because we've got a shot of somebody flying straight down the thing's gullet. If Din had just like Darksaber first, done that, and flown literally right through it.
Like Drax in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes, that's exactly
Paz is kind of a little bit of just a big goofball. I think.
Yeah.
He's doing his best to be a good Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Apparently, there is a lot of aloofness that follows this creed around. Because Boba Fett in Return of the Jedi they implied without saying it that he was high.
Yeah.
But anyway. Okay, so the last scene is her talking to the armorer about getting the
because the armorer says you've done the greatest
a mythosaur. She's like, that's nice, dear. You see a lot of things in the heat of battle. And she's like, are you kidding me?
Because the armorer is basically like, you've done the greatest thing that a Mandalorian can do in the creed, which is like save a foundling. So to repay you, like, we'll get you a new armor shoulder plate. And she's basically sitting there like, hey, because the armor asks, oh, do you want another night owl to match? And Bo's like, actually, could I perhaps do a mythosaur and the night owl? Because she has the night owl on her other shoulder as well. And the armor is basically just like, oh, well, yeah, the mythosaur is a creature of all Mandalorians, so of course you can. And she's like, yeah, I'll do that. And then she's like, oh, by the way, what if I told you I saw one? And the armor's like, cool vision, dude. And Bo's like, that's a great actually vision.
The tone of her voice was so evil.
Yeah.
It was but they hammed it up with the music, right? They were trying to make it seem like, subterfuge, backplot.
I wouldn't necessarily say evil, but it was more so just like ominous. Like, what's she planning?
So, big question. Was this all planned? Was going above and beyond to save this foundling part of a plan to get her in good graces with the armor?
Right. Because I think at this point it could be a matter of she wants to get in the favor of the covert, where she can get this group to trust her. Then maybe she'll challenge Din for the Darksaber and be like, oh, I saw the mythosaur, I'm supposed to be the leader, blah, blah, blah. When in reality, I think we can already kind of all say that the mythosaur probably appeared for Din, not her.
I think a lot of us believe that, but Bo-Katan is really the one who can appreciate the gravitas of that, because Din has shown that he doesn't see.
And I think that's why she's almost being a little menacing about it, is because maybe she realizes that it maybe wasn't necessarily there for her. Yeah. But she is being a little menacing. She's up to something. I think that's what we can say. We don't know what, but she's up to something.
I will say she's a Dave Filoni character, and I don't think that would be the best character growth if she just went back to her old habits of being kind of like a somewhat self-serving, slightly sketchy person. Right. Like, can't she have some growth?
Yeah, and that's what I hope for, because she
is
such a cool character.
30 years since we first met?
Okay, so when we first meet her, she's working for Pre Vizsla. We talked about this last week. She's following another Mandalorian she believes is great, and then he dies, and she goes and gets help from other people because Maul is a dickhead. And then she's kind of ruling from her shallow throne or whatever in Rebels, and Sabine gives her the Darksaber. She's not really like a bad guy per se. She was at the start of the Clone Wars, but she works with Ahsoka and blah, 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 blah.
Right.
I've never seen her be like a true villain for that self-serving motive. It's like, it's with a purpose.
Right.
And like, she had the chance to go after Din several times and she hasn't. So I don't know.
Right.
The fact that she is keeping this mythosaur thing a secret is, I kind of look at that as her character taking an interesting path. Right. Not necessarily always being a bad guy, but I don't know.
I think we all want her to be. I think we all really like her. Yeah, we don't want her to be killed by Din. At this point
in the season, I think she's the best character in the show right now.
I agree. Well, besides the new Jedi. He's pretty good. He's up there.
She's like, maybe not the best character, but just like the most fun to watch. Like, every time we see Bo-Katan on screen, I'm like, yes. Let's get a little excited, you know? Like, something cool's going to happen.
Nice to see another black person in this universe that doesn't get killed. Lando being one who doesn't get killed, but Mace Windu is like the only other black person.
Hey, we don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see how this goes. I'm happy to see him back. He deserves so much more than he got from the fandom. Yeah. And like, I get it. His character sucked, but it's a character.
Don't blame
the
actor,
man.
Not.
Yeah, George Lucas made a mistake going that hard for comic relief, but the decision was made and that's what we got, right? And I don't like Rose Tico, but the decision was made and that's what we got.
Yeah, I think overall we're not the only ones extremely pumped to see. I think a lot of people have the same.
Can't wait to get onto the forums. But overall, not much story progress other than Bo-Katan kind of getting more in
the
with
Grogu background, and maybe Paz Vizsla's a little more important than we think.
It was
and they didn't even hint about Mr. Dr. Professor Empire from the last episode, Dr. Pershing. Yeah.
This was the most filler of the season, but at the same time, also
it was almost like a good break.
I'd rank this as. So we've got 4 episodes. I think the second episode was the best. This would be my second best. Between last week's and the one before that, I think there were some really good bits of last week's episode. So I'd give it.
I liked episode 1 a lot.
One above episode 1, but I could see the argument for having those two flip flop.
But all in all, it was just a cool episode. Like a lot of really cool animations and graphics that we saw, like with the Mandalorians fighting and whatnot. And then it just gave us food for thought, I think, is kind of the most important thing. And that's what we love, if you couldn't tell by all the tangents that we go on every other minute on this podcast.
Overall, I guess this is our first episode where pretty much, the majority of the time spent with a group of Mandalorians.
Yeah.
For the first time on the
largest
Mandalorian
group of them that we've seen all.
They look like they're starting to do better than they were last episode or the episode before.
Until the dragon came again, but
apparently that keeps happening, and their numbers keep growing. So they must be really good at their indoctrination plan. So.
Right, each episode will get a bigger dragon.
Maybe get an indoor pool for the initiation.
Maybe just move planets.
Yeah.
Maybe. You can head to Mandalore.
They kind of established that at the end of the last episode that, hey, it's cool over there. You should go check it out.
Yeah, they didn't mention their home planet
at all in this
episode after learning it's...
Because the beginning of that episode, the end of last week's episode was Bo-Katan becoming one with the covert again. Before I say coven.
And dropping that bomb that Mandalore is habitable and... didn't come up at all this episode.
I really want to see that develop.
I think the reason it didn't come up is because this was the filler episode.
I'm
sure we'll get that moving forward. We'll get IG back.
IG back. He can go scout it out again just to make sure.
If all of next episode is just flashbacks of Amon Best slicing through clones, I'd be perfectly happy.
Yeah, that's all I need, honestly.
I think maybe the only thing, the only reason they're not immediately rushing back to Mandalore is they only have maybe 50 people there in their covert, if that.
Yeah, I don't know.
How are they supposed to rebuild Mandalore with 50 people?
Don't know.
True. Yeah, they need.
Right.
I
think they need to plan. They got to get some resources.
They need a labor force.
Yeah.
Get a union up in there.
Build the domes again.
Anywhere else based on this episode that we see things going next?
I see us resuming the normal plot line next episode.
Yeah.
They go and check out Mandalore. Probably, maybe the Empire comes to meet them, and that's our first taste of getting to see the picture of who that Imperial remnant is a part of.
Because
maybe they capture somebody and they figure something out
away
from
Bo-Katan's palace by the Empire. So maybe now, since that was a moon of Mandalore, maybe now the Empire is starting to realize, what are these people doing around here? Maybe they're going to have a little fleet around Mandalore for when these Mandalorians come back. They'll be waiting for them for a nice little space battle or something.
100% true, but also, what are they doing there? Why is Mandalore so important to the Empire?
Right. Why were they there when Din and Bo were there? That's a good point.
Or were they after Grogu?
True, they could still be chasing, but how would they have known that he was there? Right?
Something related to the New Republic Amnesty Unit, I bet.
Mm-hmm. True.
All right, folks, we are all theoried out. Again, another great episode. Pretty good for a filler episode. That's pretty much all we got for you on this episode. And remember, folks, always
bring your own lightsaber. Hit it, Greg.
Hold on. It's got to turn on.
Boot.
There we go. We'll see you next time.